Welcome back to another episode of
The Three Pills, man.
Let's Get It, Alex. Number one. Well, before I let you take a run at this,
Sure.
let me say this. We've got some popcorn review to do, but you've already tasted both of them, haven't you?
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie. I did a nice dip in both, honestly.
Three-fourths of this bag is gone, bro.
Yeah, it's not my proudest moment, but
Yeah,
I don't apologize for it.
it's all good, man. Hey, these are called edible.
Edible or eatable? Eatable.
How you spell edible?
E-D.
Oh, these are called eatable.
Eatable. Yeah,
Huh. I didn't say I was the smartest guy in the world, you know what I mean?
that's okay. But you're still a guy,
Yeah.
so it still works.
Yeah. All right. So this one's called eatable.
Yeah.
It's called whiskey on the pops.
Mm.
You already had this, right?
I've had 3/4 of the bag.
Yeah, three-fourths of
this.
the day. These right here, they're free from palm oil, palm kernel oil, canola oil, high fructose corn syrup, caramel color. I don't know that other one. Titanium dioxide, confectioner's glaze, and other artificial ingredients commonly found in confections. Either way, seems to be
Sounds like a healthier alternative to me.
yeah, saturated fat, not too bad. 14 grams of sugar though,
Yeah.
but it's cane sugar, so we'll take that.
We'll take that. Can't have it all, bro. Can't have it all. So what you thinking? You see? Just like Lay's chips. Can't just have one.
Can't just have one. What'd you think?
Well, since I've had 3/4 of the bag, I will say they are a solid 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
So I'll give it a B. It's definitely a snack where, if you're just sitting at a desk or watching TV or, doing anything, it's very a mindless snack. So just how I just went through pretty much the entire bag, you probably gonna need solid two throughout the day, or in two in one sitting, however you prefer. But but overall, I like them. I mean, even this the champagne flavor, champagne infused white chocolate popcorn flavor. I'm not going to read out the ingredients because it's the same thing.
Beautiful,
but same rating. 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10, huh?
Yeah, 8 out of 10.
Which one's better?
Well, see, now this one, I'm gonna let you eat that, and I want you to tell me what's the difference between what you just ate and what I just gave you. There's one key difference, and you got to just eat one, and you'll notice right away. Yeah.
Like a pop rock.
Yeah. It brings back a little nostalgia.
Yeah. What the hell? So these are champagne,
yes,
infused white chocolate.
With the little crackle pop, Rice Krispie type of vibe.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder how they do that.
I have no clue, bro. But it's a nice little switch up.
Yeah.
I
think I like those more.
Those or these?
Well,
yeah, these are probably my favorite. Whiskey on the pops. As you can see, our K9 friend here is ready for one. But too bad you can't have one.
Yeah, no, not.
But for those of you that are watching and tuning into this Three Pills a Man episode, if you ever come across these, just make sure that you say that you heard this on Three Pills a Man. Give us a little, shout out.
Yeah.
Nothing Nothing will cost you.
No.
You know, just
Shout out's free.
Yeah, showers are free. Just say, hey, yeah, I heard
Love is free.
Well.
Yeah.
Well, we're not gonna get too much into that area, but
I guess you can pay for love.
You can. You can pay for a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Good and bad. So,
or does love cost you?
Love does cost you.
What's it cost you?
Time and patience.
Time and patience. Yeah. If you love the wrong person, it costs you peace.
Yeah. Costs you money.
Yeah. You love the right person.
It costs you money.
but love money.
Right. Money well spent.
Money
bang
well
for
spent.
your buck. How about that?
Yeah.
Bang for your buck.
Yeah.
You get bang for your buck when you love the right person.
Yeah.
When you don't, it's money down the toilet.
Yeah, there is that.
Yeah.
So I didn't plug my phone up, so we might have to make this one a decently quick podcast. But review. Were you just trying to withhold that information about the pop rocks?
Yeah, that's right.
To make sure that you weren't going crazy about having.
Yeah, the accusations you're giving me are correct. Okay. That's right.
Yeah, because I feel like I would have done the same thing to wait to see what you noticed differently. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah. I hear you, bro.
Yeah. See, you like it.
I definitely like the whiskey ones better than the
whiskey on the pops.
Than the alternative. Yeah. Definitely delicious. Happy about that.
Do you know where you can find those?
I bet you can just Google it.
Well, hey, Google is my best friend at least.
Where can you find eatables?
No clue.
I now know why they called it eatables instead of edibles.
What's your theory?
I just thought about that.
What's your
You
theory?
didn't want people to think that they were infused with THC. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. I would probably name my company Edibles if I did have a company that was infused with THC.
Or CBD.
Or CBD.
Yeah.
But these are infused with alcohol. Without the alcohol part.
How'd that work?
Brother, right? Not here for
that.
Right. I don't get paid for that.
I'm out of my wheelhouse here.
Yeah. So far, I would say I agree with you. 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
I didn't get a lot of whiskey flavor though.
No, definitely
just a caramel.
Yeah, for sure.
The white chocolate ones. I'm going 6.
6. You really don't like the pop rock?
I mean, I like it enough. Yeah, I don't like the pop rock. I could have done without that.
I feel it.
It's a cool little idea. But I don't know if that's a selling point, you know?
Yeah, I feel like I don't know if that's something. I mean, even think about pop rocks back then, you know, it's like, were you really sitting there eating that whole bag? At least I wasn't.
I was.
Oh, okay. Well,
I was pouring them all in my mouth, just that, you know. There was no second round.
Right. Yeah. You want all popping at once?
I want, you know me well enough to know I'm going all the way.
Yeah, it's all or nothing. Yeah. 0 to 100.
Let's do it.
All right, man.
What are we talking about today?
Today, as we always do, I'm going to play a clip. But today's topic is what does being a burden to others look like? So, before I play the clip, let's give a little background on the clip. This is, I believe, a clip from Jason Wilson's dojo called the Cave of Adullam in Detroit, Michigan. I believe it's in Detroit. And so he does classes for, I believe, kids from 8 to 12, where he teaches them not only about self-defense, but also the hidden gems of life. So, give me 1 second here, and I will play the clip.
What's your position? You're on top of your father. You're a lot heavier than you were at 9 years old. But he still has to push you now because you're not doing your part. So he's doing good now, right, Ken?
Yes, sir.
How long do you think a father can keep doing it with all his responsibilities? Let's put life in this picture. He works, married. You're making his life a lot harder because he's worried about you because you're acting silly in school, getting suspended. Keep going, Kev. Try to fight through it. This is what he does for you. But he can only do so much. It's crushing your father. The way you can help, live up to your potential. When I say Zeus, your father's going to push up, but you already know he's weak. You're going to have to push up at the same time to help him. Zeus! See how you help Zeus? Zeus! Now,
All right, there's the clip. And I know people are like, well, Alex and Allison, we can't see the clip. Well, hey, we're just not there yet. So you got to hear it. So,
However, we are there yet. The camera's over there.
well, it's not as easy to.
I get it.
You get what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Sheesh.
Yeah, I get it. I'm
But-
not saying.
No, how about this? Give us a few more episodes and we'll find a better way to show clips.
All right, I agree with this.
Yeah.
But
What do you think?
so that the people who couldn't see that are listening in their cars,
Right.
the son was on top of the dad's shoulders or on his back while he was doing push-ups.
Right.
It's a perfect example, right? You brought this up right before we started.
Yeah.
It's a perfect example of, in this instance, as a child, you do weigh on your parents. You do have some level of burden upon the father, the mother, because they do have to take care of you, right? And ultimately, they are taking on that burden for a period of time so that you do, gain the strength and the ability to carry yourself, and then ultimately be able to be a father and carry on the legacy of that. But we've all known someone who was a burden like to our lives, right? Indirectly or directly.
For sure.
Financially, mentally, emotionally, physically.
Yeah.
All of these things are possible and show themselves in different ways. But I don't know, man. I like the clip. I like the concept of it. I like the concept of being able to show and teach in that physical way.
Yeah.
Right? Because to me, growing up, if someone would have explained it to me that way, I probably would have acted a little bit differently.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
And that's something that he's doing so well, right?
Yeah.
He's able to take the concept of whether it be being a burden or being tough or being sensitive and bring it to a level of actual physical realm.
Yeah.
And that's super cool to understand, especially for younger cats.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it as a kid, there's some kids where you can talk to them like in theory and they can get it, but a lot of kids you have to show them, you have to show what you're trying to teach in a physical way and then go back to the theory of what you're trying to teach. And so I do like the way where he showed it, where he said, hey, get on your father's back. Your father can do push-ups for, starting out, he can knock them out, but as you continue, you can knock him out, but then over time, he's going to get to a point where he can't do push-ups. And so I believe in that clip, Mr. Wilson was having an issue with that kid because he was like getting suspended in school, just acting out in class, right? So you think about it, just as and we're not there right now. We're not fathers, but we can empathize with what he's saying and understand like the concept where it's like, as men, we are, especially men with kids or wife, just even for yourself, you have certain responsibilities where or you're already carrying that weight on you already.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine you're a father, you're the main provider of the house, you have a wife that you need to support and love and care for, and also you have a kid that you need to do the same and you have to raise as well. Imagine that. Yeah, right. And you have your own career. You're working, whether it's a blue collar career or white collar, whatever. You have a career, a 9 to 5 you have to go to and pay bills and support the whole family. So
your own goals.
You're right. Your own goals. While you're supporting family, you have your own stuff to deal with. Friendship, all that. So imagine if you have a kid that's unruly, acting out, and not only do you have to continue to provide for yourself and others, but you have to take care of this individual problem where he's not essentially doing what he's supposed to do. But one thing I did like what Mr. Wilson said was, you see how you're being a burden to him when you're not living to your full potential. And it was funny because I showed you that one comment where it said, this is a fascinating lesson of how you can be a burden to others. And it's like, it's not necessarily it not only applies to father and son, but it can apply to, to just adults, adult relationships or etc. Like you think about just you being an entrepreneur and being a leader of your own team. Like what sense does it make if you're telling your employees like, hey, y'all need to be early, y'all need to be on time for meetings, but you're late and you're on time and you're not on time, and you're telling your employees, well, y'all need to be prepared for this meeting, but you're not prepared. You see how you're burdening your team by not setting the right example.
Right.
And so I think there's many different ways you can apply this.
Yeah, and the idea behind, in a relationship, and that's why I wanted to go into like the physical, the mental, the emotional, financial, all of these things in life come with their own expectation, right? You should be able to do these things to the best of your ability. Yeah. And if you're choosing not to, right, then you are making a decision to be a burden on the person that you are either A, choosing to spend your life with,
right,
B, the future person you're trying to spend your life with,
right,
or the person you're dating now.
Right.
Or at bare minimum, if you're choosing not to make these, or you're making these decisions not to, and you're a single person,
well, you're just burdening yourself at that point.
Yourself. And you're making things harder on yourself.
Right. Yeah, it's like what Mr. Wilson said. You're burdening, when he's talking to the kid, you're burdening your father because you're not living to your potential. And so like let's break this down let's say you're a single person, right? When you're not focused and when you're distracted and you're just living life very recklessly, I'm not saying you can't have fun.
Yeah.
That's one of the good parts about being single. You can, date who you want, do what you want, have fun. But at the same time, if you do have aspirations to be in a relationship or be in a marriage, it will be wise if you prepared yourself now in your stage of singleness before you enter into a relationship where where it's not about you, it's more about how can I serve this person I'm in a relationship with. Because I just think about myself where you're dating, you're kind of living life, right? But you do get to a point where especially when you get to that, I say like late 20s, like that 27, 28, where you're like, okay, like I've done what I wanted to do. It was great, but I think now I need to really just buckle down and focus on like what I'm truly trying to accomplish. And then that thought even gets more apparent in your 30s, and even regardless of whether you're in a relationship or not. And so I think that's one of the few things a lot of people don't do, especially when they're single. They're still trying to be out there and distracted with whether it's women or you know um, parties or whatever. But it's like, how can you be a service to somebody when you're not even serving yourself?
Right. And I mean, this starts when you turn 14 or 15, right?
Yeah.
You start getting your driver's permit, the learning permit.
Good point.
You're getting to that stage of adulthood,
Right.
right? Yeah, sure, maybe you're 4 to 3 years off,
Mm-hmm.
but that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
When you start becoming the person that you are ultimately going to be, that is the foundation. And you've got to get to a place where you start learning responsibility. You start learning discipline. You start learning that the world is not going to revolve around you. And I went through, growing up, I wasn't the best rule follower, right? I had my moments growing up. When I chose to defy instead of follow, decided to make my own bad decisions. I think genuinely, because I made that decision growing up and got in trouble, I think that changed everything.
Yeah.
Because I realized very quickly that my actions have reactions.
Okay, well, consequences.
And prior to that, I was just living. I was like, nothing really mattered.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
Right.
you're a kid.
Right.
You're in middle school, you're in high school or whatever.
Yeah.
And you know everything. Right.
Right.
And nothing really.
Been here for 15 years. I know everything I need to know.
Like, this shit is easy, right?
Right. We know what a bill looks like. We know everything.
Right. Like you wake up, you go to school, and you're like, well, this is what life is right here. And then you start learning that the things that you do have reactions or consequences, and then I think that helped me navigate life a little bit better.
Yeah.
I don't think that I'd be the same person if I don't know, whatever. I don't know if I'd be the same person if I hadn't gone through the things that I went through growing up. And becoming the person of like, okay, I've always been very free-minded, right? In the idea of like, whatever.
Right. Yeah, this doesn't, right. There's a different way to do this or go about this or.
And I think that taught me very quickly that everything you do also it's like throwing a rock into a pond. It has its ripples.
Yeah.
And then trying to be conscious of those ripples. And are they heading in a positive direction or a negative direction? And as a kid, it's very hard to see that. And when I say kid, I mean someone who is 15 years old, right? And you're growing up and you're learning and you're doing these things.
Yeah.
And then those ripples become a lot wider and a lot bigger as you get older. And you've got to be very conscious of those.
Yeah,
right?
Careful, because like you said, when you're, if a kid is fortunate enough to have, parents or even just a support system, I think you can make those consequences, right? But you still have that safety net. Now, unfortunately, there are kids who don't have that support system or don't have, parents in the home or where if they make the wrong decision, it could be
There's a jail time.
It could be a life or death situation, or it can be something where the consequences are so great where like you said, you can't come back from. So I've always appreciated my my dad specifically. I've always felt like he had a good balance of letting me make the mistakes, but at the same time teaching me that you can avoid a lot of situations by just learning from others too. And so I think that there's a balance there, right? It's like, I guess, and we'll probably, once we're parents, or we'll probably look at this a whole different way, where it's like, how do I get? And honestly, you can think about this now with employees, where it's like, how do I get my kid or employee or like person that's dependent on like your direction or your guidance? How do I get them? How do I find this balance of like letting them figure it out and letting them have their successes, but also letting them learn from their consequences versus me telling them like, hey, if you do this, this is probably going to happen. But now that I asked that question, I feel like you can tell somebody, hey, if you do this, this is gonna happen. If you do this, this is what happened to me, But ultimately, I feel like like you said, I'll say the good thing about consequences is if you learn from them.
Yeah.
If you don't, they're bad.
Right.
So it's it's interesting, man. I just like I said, I like when what I got from Mr. Wilson in that clip is us not living up to our full potential. Because I believe if you're not actively trying to do that, how can you really serve others? It's of course there's going to be obstacles in the way and it's going to be peaks and valleys, but if you're not even working towards your potential or even trying to figure out what that looks like for yourself, how can you serve others?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people try to serve others, but at the same time, how do I say this? It's like this, right? Like, for example, let's say you're a person that, you hop in different relationships, right? And it's like the same outcome. It's like, well, have you ever thought about you? I'm trying to think of you. It's almost like you are what you attract. There you go. So if I've never spent time by myself to figure out who I am, and I'm serial dating and getting into these relationships where I haven't even done the work for myself, you're essentially going to attract what you are.
Yeah.
So if you feel like, every person I date is not ready or they're not compatible, it's like, well, that might be an indicator that you need to look within yourself and see like what's incomplete within you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where a lot of people don't take the time to really figure out like who they are and what their purpose is.
Yeah, I was watching a video. It was either a video or a podcast the other day. And it was along these same lines of figuring out, taking the time to ask yourself the questions that need to be asked. That process can seem difficult, right? Especially like right now, we had a conversation last week about emotional and sensitivity and being able to being able to be on both ends.
Yeah.
And I struggle so hard so hard with that process. And what I've had to realize from that conversation is that one, I haven't done the work to learn enough in those spaces. And so what I've been trying to do now, based off of very recent events, I've been trying to learn more, right? Where am I messing up? Where am I quick to shut down? Where am I, what are those trigger points for me?
Right.
And then being able to address them or not walk into them myself. Right? And then in addition to that, being able to listen. We spoke about active listening. We spoke about pausing and confirming. We spoke about a lot of things, and I was like, man, I love the fact that you did that, right? And so I was like, I'm gonna figure out, next time I have some sort of a conversation, I'm gonna try and take the moment to pause.
Yeah.
I kind of used the last night during the conversation.
Right.
But I wasn't as effective with it because it's new.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, for sure.
And I was trying to apply this knowledge without having the background of me being able to voice where I'm at, how I'm feeling, where I'm, where, and so it probably came across a little bit differently, but you've got to understand where you are being a burden for yourself and where you're being a burden for others.
Right.
Looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the biggest thing.
Because that goes back to your point of exactly that. Where are you? How are you doing? Right. What are the things that you were doing to cause the issues in your life?
Yeah.
How can you address those?
Yeah.
What do you have to do to move forward?
Yeah.
What knowledge and skill level do you need to acquire to get to that?
Yeah.
And then how do you acquire those skills?
Yeah.
Right. And ultimately, that's where it comes down to me.
Well, my dad is always big in this. We always have a lessons learned. Like he was very big on lessons learned. It can be something as small as so it can be something small or like a big event. Like I know one thing with like when I was in Charlotte and I was going through the process of like looking for a townhome. We went through it, got the closing, everything went well, and then so we had a conversation, and he's like, well, what was some of the lessons learned, things that you can apply, next time you're in a similar situation. And so I think that's the things that we have to do actively, right? Like regardless of whether it's like you cooking a meal or you trying a recipe and like I don't know, you might have added too much seasoning, whatever it is, you can, or it can be a big situation like, going through buying a home or something. Yeah. But I think that's where, like I said, that's where lessons learned plays a role, because even with you, you go through, you realize like based on the experience and based on consequences, right? Where it's like, okay, let me sit here and think like, how could I have done this better? Now, where a lot of us mess up at is we don't apply those lessons learned.
Yeah.
Or we don't really sit down and have the lessons learned in the first place. Because it's I think that could be dangerous, where you just move from situation to situation and not really sit down and think like, okay, why did this happen? And we're both guilty of that. Like, hey, it happened. Let's move on. You don't even want to think about it. But even if it's like you say, even if it's like a situation of us arguing with significant others, it's like we might look at it like, okay, this is not a big deal, whatever. We can move, let's move forward. Right. Like I don't want to spend time on this. But for her, it could be a totally different thing. So Yeah, I think that's the one thing that has helped me is, well, actually two things. One, looking at seeing somebody and see somebody make the mistake that, like on a, could be something they were doing and we were doing something similar, like seeing them make the mistake first, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, now let me go this way instead of that way. And then sometimes you just gotta go through it.
Yeah.
And just hope you make it out, make it out on the other side, and but once you make it out on the other side, you gotta really sit there and be like, okay, what went right, what went wrong? Is it something I did? Is something she did? Like you said, there's something that she said to me that triggered me that now I'm in defense mode instead of like active listening, resolution mode. So, yeah, you gotta. But what happens is we, just us being busy, busy people, we don't really have those moments where sit down and really just think about like, okay, this what happened, this what happened today, or this what happened this week. That's the benefit of journaling, or taking notes. There's something tangible where you can look back and say like, oh, okay, I went through this. This is how I felt. This is what I did, and then you can look at your notes and be like, okay, I'm going through a similar situation. So what did I write down as far as like what I've learned from it, and then because sometimes when you try to keep it all in your head,
You forget
bro,
about it.
oh yeah, you're gonna forget about it, especially how we roll. It's like and we make that we always trap ourselves thinking like, okay, uh, okay, I'll think about it. I'll remember that. But then the next day, you got a full day. You got meetings and all that stuff, and then you trying to figure out. Somebody might bring up the situation. And you're like, oh damn, that happened. What do we do? And then because you had to remember the situation, you're not gonna remember what you felt, or
Yep.
or even you can't even learn from.
That's a good point. You ever read the book Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey?
Mm-mm.
It's on audiobook too.
Okay.
It's basically a journal that he kept about his life from the time that he was like 18.
Oh wow.
And he kept up with it. He always wrote down like, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's called Green Lights, but it's green lights, yellow lights, and red lights, right? And how life gives you green lights, and sometimes in some situations where everything's going your way, everything's working out.
Yeah.
Yellow lights when you probably need to slow down a minute, reassess the situation.
Yeah.
And then it gives you red lights when things just go haywire.
Haywire. All right, you need to stop right now.
Right. And the way that he goes through it, and he's explaining his life and how some things may have seemed like red lights, but they were actually green lights. And how some things are yellow lights, but they were actually red lights. Like, yeah, being able to assess those things is so important. And going back to what you're saying, like making the journal and going through the process. I'm not the best at it. A lot of times I forget.
Oh yeah.
I freaking forget, and it's annoying.
Yeah.
Right? Because now I'm like, oh man, I forgot the journal for the past month.
Yep.
And
a lot has happened.
And he does such a good job with explaining it and going through his life and going through the process and all the things.
Yeah.
It'd be a good book to listen to.
You said it's called what? Green Light?
Green Light. Green lights, green light.
So I'm putting into practice now. You see, look, because I know like we're actively talking about. As soon as I leave here,
it's gone.
It's gone.
And that was a really good book, man. I really did enjoy it. I listened to it twice. I enjoyed it so much. I don't really go back and listen to a book unless I need to pick something up.
Yep.
But now with ChatGPT, you can just have it pull up a summary of the book and just kind of all right, I remember that, right?
Yeah.
So there's those points, but being able to be in detail, right? Like this was happening, this has happened, because you like you said, like it's so hard to remember things. Like I'll have an argument with someone and completely forget about that argument. It's the same reason why I take notes on one-on-ones. right? Because a week from now, I'm not going to remember what we went over this morning.
No.
I'm not going to remember what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Just because, not that I don't care, but I've got 1,200 things that I got to complete in a day.
Things that's going to take priority.
And then back when that situation is now a priority again, I'm going to be able to assess that.
Yeah.
And I need to work on bringing that into my personal life as well.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
Yeah, it's well, I learned that a lot of things we do at work, we can really apply it to personal,
100%.
Not the, of course, when it comes to your personal relationship and work relationship, that's of course two separate things. But, but like lessons learned, that's something we do at work all the time, with like projects. When the project ends, you sit with your project teams like, okay, what worked, what didn't work, what do we run into? Because you will have another project that has a similar, scope of work that we just did.
Yeah.
So as far as being able to identify risk early and be able to identify those road bumps, this will help this future project to run a lot smoother.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, it's but tying back to the clip, when we don't really take the time to fully work to become our full potential, and a lot of that is what we just talked about, is making those self-assessments of yourself. Especially as a man, how can you be a true servant leader when you're not even doing the assessment of yourself? And that's what Mr. Wilson was trying to teach the kid. And he might, he looked like he's probably like 12 or something, but and I like what he's doing, that he's teaching them early, trying to get these concepts in them now. Not to say that they won't run into no issues, because 12 and 17, 18, that's you going through puberty, like driver's license. You're getting ready to gear off to college, and then college, or go straight to work, and then that's going to present different challenges as well. But I like that he's instilling those that concept early, where hey, when you don't take care of yourself and you don't take care of what you need to take care of, you're no good to nobody.
Yeah.
So it's a good reminder. And even though it was something simple as him being on top of his dad doing push-ups, but when you really think about it, it's like, you think about it, if you're in a relationship and one financial burden is your responsibility with money is terrible, but your spouse's is great, you're being a financial burden to her because you're not doing what you need to do. And then the mental part, you're not actively listening to her. You're not catering to what she needs, or whether it's, maybe if she needs you to say I love her every day,
that's the job.
That's the job, and I think that's just what it is too. It's just like I just feel like as as men, that's the privilege of being a man. You can put a lot on your shoulders. Now, of course, you need people to, you can talk to, have a solid, I like to say, a committee of people, or committee of men, where you can bounce ideas off each other and say, hey, what? I ran into this situation. Well, how did you handle it? Like, you need that, you need that support group, so you can continue to bear that weight that we have as men. But that's the privilege, man. It's a privilege to have, to be able to take on that pressure. We shouldn't ask to, I'll say for me at least, I don't ask God to, take that pressure off of me, just to help me to figure out how to navigate through that. Help me to build me so I can essentially just take on more.
Yeah.
It's not to say that you won't fall flat, but just help me get back up so I can keep on trucking. So
help me through the process.
That's it, man. And it's funny, man. It was Wednesday. I had I had like we have a small church group, right? And so they wanted me to talk about uh, why is it hard to get young people in the church, and like one of the things I was saying is like people, especially people our age, we're not necessarily looking for you to fix us, like fix stuff for us. You know,
Yeah.
we're independent enough where like we just want you to give us the guidance, give us like the proper, yeah, just proper
Tools.
advice, yeah, proper tools so we can navigate through our problems because we're independent enough where we want to fix it ourselves.
Yeah.
Like we don't necessarily want you to. If I come with you with an issue, I don't really necessarily like. I'm all about you giving me advice or giving me the right tools to handle the situation, but I don't need you to physically fix the situation for me
Right.
or try to fix me. Just like you said, just give me some type of advice or guide me in the right direction where I can navigate through whether it's this emotion or this insecurity or this doubt or um yeah, just give me the tools. It's funny that you said that we need guidance more than anything. And that's just the beauty of being a man. I feel like we can take on a lot, but at the same time, like Mr. Wilson did, it's like there are things in our life that it's like, hey, you just be good in school. Like I already got a lot, and maybe that's a conversation where you need to have like whether it's your kid or with your spouse. It's like, hey, look, because you're doing this, you're adding a lot to my plate now.
Yeah. So being a man is about ability,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the idea behind responsibility is the ability to respond,
Right. It's in the word, right?
right?
Right.
So as a man, you have responsibility to respond to things and handle things and take on responsibility,
Right.
right? Because you have been given the gift of the ability to respond.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever's coming up, whatever's on your plate, you have everything you need.
Right.
Just sometimes you have to go look for the tools to fix the problem. Now, as a woman, you also have those things, but I think there's different things. Like there's different expectations of a man than there are a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And we see that as kids. We look at our dads. We look at our brothers or the people inside the community. As you grow up, you start seeing all of these people,
Yeah.
all of these men doing things, taking care of their families, helping others,
Right.
doing the things that they're supposed to do. But it comes down to genuinely just being able to say, okay, look, it's my responsibility to make sure that I'm not a burden on anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a burden on myself.
Right.
And I'm doing the things that I need to do to get where I need to go.
Yeah.
And to apply this to the three pillars, it falls back to self-awareness. So you mentioned, having those conversations or realizing when you are a burden, emotionally, financially, spiritually, physically, right? If you're not in the gym and you're not taking care of your body, you are a burden. If you are not being spiritually in the route that you need to be in, you are a burden because your mental is not going to be clear. Now, falling back into, the mental aspect of things, if you're not squared away there and you're not having those self-assessments, and mentally it falls into emotional, it falls into how you interact with people, how you communicate. Me personally, I'm very weak in the idea of emotional communication.
Can I pause you for 1 second?
Yeah.
I also want to be clear that asking for help is a form of self-awareness. I think, I know, I'm just thinking about us. Sometimes we don't look at that as a gift. We look at it more as a weakness. But I do want to just make it clear, asking for assistance or asking for help is a form of self-awareness because you are aware that, hey, I am responsible for this thing, but I might not know the direction I need to go in to be able to handle this
What
responsibility.
are the instructions to the job?
Yeah, right. But yeah, go ahead, brother. I just wanted to say
That's
that.
a good point though, because I didn't realize how undeveloped I was. I will say I did realize, but I did nothing about it. Right?
I like it.
And it didn't dawn on me until recently, because I started to notice it was getting worse. Because of my detachment, because of my my experiences that have taught me, subconsciously that, whatever it may be, I didn't realize that I was falling off the base emotionally.
Yeah.
Inside of a relationship, inside of friendships, inside of whatever. Just because I was like, you're leaving? Like, okay. And that's not an okay place to be, especially when you care about somebody. Right? Or you care about people. And so going to that point, it is important to be able to understand and have that assessment of, okay, this is where I'm at. Right? Getting your baseline on your bench is about benching your weight where you need to, getting to a point of understanding, okay, I'm at, 195.
Yeah.
Okay. Where do I want to be? I want to be at 225 by the end of the month. All right.
Right.
What do I have to do to get there? And that's the assessment. And that's, okay, well, you know what? I have no idea how to go about this process, but who is the most emotionally intelligent man that I know? Boom. Talk to that person. Get some feedback. All right. Got the feedback. Now it's upon me to learn the skill of emotional intelligence and emotional communication.
Yeah, exercise the skill. Yeah.
Learn the skill, exercise the skill, build on the skill.
Right.
The same concept you would do in weight training, the same concept you would do about, if you're a professional food contest eater, like it's all the same concept. You just have to know that you have to start applying or ask the correct questions to get to where you need to go.
It's all a muscle. It's even though it's not physical, you gotta think of it like a muscle. If I don't work a muscle, what's gonna happen?
So how do they apply in your words or in your thoughts?
Well, how they apply to the three pillars based on what we talked about today, I would say mental. I think with mental and being, like you said, being able to self-assess yourself, you gotta understand where you are first. And I think that's what you just did as far as like understanding your shortcomings, where it's like, okay, I'm strong in this area, but I'm not necessarily strong in this area. And I think for people, not only do you need solitude to think about that stuff, but I think also if you're blessed enough to have that supporting group where they can be transparent and hold you accountable, and I think you turn to them as well because sometimes a person with a bird eyes view can see things that you can't, because you're in the midst of it. So I think overall you gotta really think about where you are, and then ultimately, think, assess, and then put into action after you do those first two steps. Physically, I like the example you said. If I'm not actively eating right, if I'm not getting the proper amount of rest, if I'm not actively exercising, We're not talking about you have to be the next Mr. Olympia. It's just a simple getting up and going walking. If you're not taking those steps to continue to better yourself in a physical manner, you are going to be a burden to yourself. I mean, um, you think about people that have to take care of family members or even friends because of the fact that they didn't take care of themselves physically. Whether it's with drugs or whether it's with they're not eating properly. So now, it could be they could have been born with diabetes. That's a whole different ball game. But some people, because of their lifestyle, they get these health complications, and then that can lead to a financial burden because probably one of the most expensive things is healthcare. As far even go to the emergency room, that's depending on what it is, that can run you $1,000. So physically, it's just doing the proper maintenance. Just it doesn't have to be you don't have to be a marathon runner. If you are, great. You don't have to be a Mr. Olympia. If you are, great. But just doing the necessary things that so you won't have to be a burden to somebody in a physical and in a health way. And I think spiritually, um, it's funny. It's like I talked to my small group on Wednesday. It's like, how can I help somebody in that spiritual way when there's things within my spiritual journey that I'm not even sure about. And and there's but I think one way you can deal with that is if somebody's struggling in the same area you're struggling with, why not partner up and figure out how can we grow together in this area, whether it's, hey, I struggle with drinking, hey, I struggle with lust, hey, I struggle with smoking. I feel like you have to really find a find a higher calling.
Yeah.
Find a bigger purpose than what you see. Um, because it's going to require you to have a certain amount of faith where, okay, I don't know, I'm trying to get better with this. I don't know where it's going to lead me, but I know it's going to lead me to a better place than where I'm at now.
Right.
And so ultimately, it's just finding your purpose and continuing to just work on that and minimize distractions.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things where you see it all the time where people get older and they look back and they're like, man, I pissed my life away, and I didn't do the things that I wanted to do because I didn't take that necessary time to figure out who I am.
Yeah.
So um, that's how you can apply not being a burden to somebody to the three pillars of man.
Boom. Until next time.
Till next time, like, share, subscribe. Like I always say, keep saying, I'm going to say it some more, I'm going to say it again. This is very grassroots type of approach. We're not investing in a lot of equipment, a lot of personnel. We want you all to be a part of a authentic and transparent conversation between two brothers. And we are both trying to figure out how we all can continue to grow mentally, physically, and spiritually. Until next time.